Hello everyone, how are you? What a lovely day it's turned out to be, hasn't it? The sun is shining, which is a complete difference to this morning when it was a bit grey and wet, wasn't it? Now, I've got tonight's story here. It's called Marcello Mouse and the Masked Ball. And down here it tells us that the author is Julie Monks. And this is Marcello Mouse. And Marcello Mouse, he's got his mask on and he's standing on this. It's a special boat. It's called a gondola. And a gondola is a long, thin boat that floats on canals. And the canal is like a long, thin river or stream. But the water doesn't move very, very fast like it does in a normal river. And you have to use a big, long pole like this to move along. We have some gondolas in this country, but most of the time you would find a gondola in Venice, which is a city in Italy. Now have a look on the spine here. All right, I know you can't see, but it tells us Marcello Mouse and the Masked Ball. It's by Julie Monks and it's been published by Macmillan. And here we are, here's the blurb on the back. It says, with a hop and a skip and a clever disguise, Marcello Mouse is off to the magical Masked Ball. But this little mouse has not been invited. And as Marcello soon discovers, this ball is certainly no place for a mouse. Can you think where might be no place for a mouse? What might be there? Let's find out, shall we? Here we go. Marcello Mouse lived alone in a dark hole, along a dark canal in the darkest corner of Venice. But he longed for warmth, and he longed for music, and he longed for light. The winter had been long, the coldest Venice had ever known. But with a twitch of his tiny nose, Marcello could smell that spring was on its way. And with spring came a magical event. Marcello had spent the cold months preparing, stitching and sewing, waiting and wondering. At last the special day arrived. In the distance, Marcello Mouse heard a beautiful song. One by one they come, on the most magical night of all, with a rustle of silk and a jingle of bells, off to the magical ball. And can you see, look, he's looking out of his window here, and the music is floating into the sky. With a squeak and a leap and a flick of his tail, Marcello slipped out of his door. He hopped up the steps, boing, 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 over the bridge, and along the canal, singing to himself as he scampered towards the twinkling lights in the distance. And down the steps, with each mouse step, the lights grew brighter and the music grew louder. Marcello drew close to the grand palace, home of the magical Masked Ball. Marcello skipped lightly up the steps, smoothed down his fur, and paused, for this little mouse was not invited to the ball. But as he stood in the doorway, his fur felt warm and the air smelled sweet. Quick as a flash, he slipped inside. How daring, how bold. Marcello Mouse in a room full of cats. But Marcello was prepared. Can you see all of the cats here? They're at the magical Masked Ball, and that's why it's not a place for mice, because cats like to eat mice, don't they? He had made a cunning disguise. They'll never guess, thought Marcello with a grin. With a leap of joy, he followed his nose to a table full of food. He tasted fine wine and wonderful cheese, and nibbled at cakes that were sugary sweet. He was lively and funny and charming. What a nice fellow, the cats all agreed. Then came the call, let the dancing begin. And light as a feather, Marcello leaped to the floor and began to dance. He twisted and turned, he skipped and he swung, He tripped and he twizzled. Then suddenly, stopped. What's happened? He's lost his mask. Not a whisker twitched and not a paw moved. That's not a cat. It's a mouse. Poor Marcello's tail began to quiver in fright. Then he let out a terrified squeak. I'll be mice cream by midnight, cried Marcello, dashing for the door. Swerving and skidding, he shot across the floor. He sped along the hallway and scampered down the steps. He darted along the canal and tumbled over the bridge. He ran without stopping and without looking back until the bright lights of the ball were far behind him. Back in his dark hole, little mouse hole, Marcello shivered and trembled in fright. One by one they ran on the most magical night of all, with a rustle of silk and a jingle of bells, away from the pussycat ball. I've been so silly. They could have eaten me up. Slowly and sadly Marcello put his outfit away. Then he curled up in a little ball and tried his hardest to fall fast asleep. All of a sudden there came a loud knock. Cats! Trembling, Marcello peered around the door, but there on the mat, instead of a cat, was a large golden envelope. And written on the envelope was the name, Marcello Mouse. For me? He squeaked. I've never had a letter. Here it is. The cats of Venice cordially invite brave Marcello Mouse, the amazing dancing mouse, to be guest of honour at the summer ball. Marcello hopped and leaped for joy. They weren't going to eat me. They liked me. Marcello Mouse was a happy mouse once more. And so, when the evening arrived, a small, smartly dressed mouse left his dark hole along a dark canal in the darkest corner of Venice and made his way to the grandest ball. Look at them all there. And here's Marcello Mouse. And there, upon a sparkling stage, Marcello Mouse, the amazing dancing mouse, received the warmest welcome of all. The end. And here he is on the canal here, and look, there's the boat. And can you see? He's got a special friend with him as well, hasn't he? So, what did you think? A nice, exciting story, wasn't it? And sometimes, even though we expect things to happen, a bit like Marcello expected the cats to gobble him up, sometimes we might be a little bit wrong as well. Now, I'm back again tomorrow night for another story. Until then, though, have a lovely day tomorrow. Hopefully the weather will be just as sunny as it is now. All right, but I will see you all again very, very soon. Take care. Bye, everyone.